Okay, let's continue with our topic. Let's solve the next problem. This next problem. Three forces act on the bracket shown. So we have this bracket. Determine the magnitude and direction theta of F3 so that the resultant force is directed along the positive x prime axis and has a magnitude of 1,000 newtons. Okay. So given naman ngayon yung resultant force natin, it acts along the positive x prime axis. So we have two axes here. So neglect niyo muna yung x and y. Okay. So na-rotate mo yung axis natin. X prime and y prime axis are perpendicular, of course. Alright. So nandito daw yung ating resultant force. It acts along the positive x prime axis. Okay, so ito yung resultant force natin. Okay? Ito yung x na cover naman. This is x prime. Ba yan? Ba't ko na cover? So this is x prime axis. Okay, so solve natin. So how do you solve this one? Given yung ating resultant force, given din yung kanyang direction, ang hanapin natin yung, if that is the resultant force and its direction, what would be the value of F3 and its direction from the positive x prime axis? No. So first, we'll just go with the steps I have mentioned before in our previous video. Okay. So first, isolve muna natin yung mga x prime and y prime components of each force. So let's start with F1. So F1, is it visible in the video? F1 x prime, ito yung x prime axis natin, and this is the y prime axis. So forget about x and y muna ngayon. Okay. So angle niya relative to x prime axis, ito yung angle relative to the x prime. This is 45 plus 30, so that is 75 degrees. Now let's solve for the component of F1 along x prime. So pag ganun yung direction niya, so positive siya. So we have 450 newtons adjacent, so sine of 75 adjacent cosine, I should say, cosine, sorry, 75 degrees, that is equal to 116.469 newtons. And then F1 y prime, ito, nandito yung component niyang ng F1 y prime. So opposite side, so it's opposite, tama, sign. That's 450. It's still positive kasi upwards yung kanyang direction. Ganun yung kanyang direction. Parang upwards. Although inclined siya, no? Ganun yung kanyang direction. Sine of 75 degrees. That is equal to 434.667 newtons. Okay, so that is the x prime and y prime components of F1. Next, F2 x prime. F2 x prime is equal to, so ito yung angle ng F2 relative to x prime. So adjacent side siya, so that is 200 cosine 30 degrees. Still positive pag ganun yung direction ng F2x prime, so that is 173.205 newtons. And F2y prime, direction ng F2y prime, still positive kasi pag ganun yung direction ng F2y prime, Bali, pag ganun yung direction niya, kapag gumamit tayo ng force triangle, pag ganun yung direction ng F2, y prime, y prime, yeah. So we have 200 sine of 30 degrees. So that's equivalent to 100 newtons. Okay? And then, isolve din natin yung, so we are solving for F3, the value of F3, and then its angle. So how about the component of R, since given naman yung value ng R natin along X prime and Y prime axis. So since R is directed along X prime axis, then it has no Y prime component. No, it has no component along the Y prime axis. So Rx prime is equal to, given, that's 1000 newtons. And Ry prime is definitely 0 since it's acting along the X prime axis. Okay? So, after which, we're going now to solve for Ft. So remember, that the summation of forces along X is also equal to X prime, I should say. So it's also equal to X prime, Rx prime. And it's also equal to F1x prime plus F2x prime plus F3x prime. So if you're going to look at the equation, we know Rx prime, we know F1x prime, we also know F2x prime, then we can definitely solve for F3x prime. It's also true kapag sa summation of forces along Y prime axis is also equal to Ry prime. F is also equal to F1y prime plus F2y prime plus F3y prime. Okay. Ayan. Okay. Space. And okay, so let's do that. So Rx prime is equal to 1000 newtons. F1x prime is 116. F2x prime is 173.205 plus F3y prime, which is F3x prime, which is unknown. No. So with this, we can solve for F3x prime, which is equal to, ilan yung ating F3x prime? That's 710.326 newtons. Okay, so positive siya. Next, let's use this naman. So Ry prime is 0. Equal yan sa F1y prime, which is 434.667 newtons, plus F2y prime, that is 100 newtons, plus F3 y prime, I should say. Okay. So with this, we can solve for F3 y prime. That is equivalent to, ano yung F3 y prime natin? 534.667 newtons. Okay? So, yan yung values natin for F3x prime and F3y prime. Now, ang sinasolve natin is ano yung resultant force natin, ay ano yung value ng F3 and its angle of inclination from the X, in its direction from the X prime axis. So we solve for the F3. So F3 is just equal to the squared quantity F3x prime squared plus F3y prime squared. Okay? So F3 is simply equal to We have f3x prime, that's 710.326 squared, plus f3y prime is 534.667 squared. So f3 is simply equal to 889.062 Newton. So this will be the answer, one of the answers, of course. Direction niya, angle theta. So theta is the arc tangent of fy3 prime over f3x prime. So that is 534.667. Wow, no, I forgot the 4. Divided by, so the direction of f3 from the x prime axis is equal to 36.97 degrees. The angle theta. Okay? So that's how we solve it. That's how we solve the second problem. All right. Okay, next problem. Determine the magnitude of the force F so that the resultant force R of the three forces is as small as possible. What is the minimum magnitude of R? So this is an application of maxima minima from differential calculus. So we're going to solve for the minimum magnitude of R. Okay. Determine the magnitude of the force F so that the resultant force R of the three forces is as small as possible. Yan. So, maxima minima. Application na maxima minima sa differential calculus natin. So, after that, we solve for the minimum magnitude of the resultant force. Okay, first, okay, we'll still go back to the first step natin. Ano ba yung first step is to solve for the x and y components of each force here. So, say yung dito sa 5 kilonewton force natin, wala siyang y component because this force is directed along x-axis. Directed along x-axis siya. Yung 4 kilonewton force naman natin ay wala siyang x component since directed siya along the negative y axis. Ayan. So, summation of forces along, diretso na natin para mabilis. Summation of forces along x-axis. So we have the x component of the 5 kilonewton force. Directed siya sa x-axis. So, positive siya. So, 5 kilonewtons. Okay. O, wala itong x component kasi directed siya sa y-axis. Itong F, meron siyang x component. So, since ang direction ng F ay pa ganun. So, ang kanyang ayan. So, this is Fy. This is Fx. This is the component of F along Y, pa ganyan. Since ganun yung kanyang direction, Fy is pa ganon, Fx is pa ganon. Okay? So that the x component of F is negative. So, directed siya papunta sa right, papunta left. Ganun siya yung direction. So, Fx is definitely negative. And ano yung Fx in terms of F? Okay, Fx in terms of F, opposite side siya. So, minus F sine of 30 degrees. Okay, and that is equivalent to, sine 30 is 0.5. So, that's definitely equal to 5 minus 0.5 of F. Okay, so yan yung summation of Fx natin. which is equal to Rx, no? Rx. And then, summation of forces along y-axis. Okay, so ano yung mga forces along y? So, definitely, the 5 kilonewton force ay wala siyang y component. Ang meron would be yung 4 kilonewtons at saka yung F. So, 4 kilonewtons is directed downwards. So, this should be minus 4. Ito naman directed siya upward. So, plus F cosine of 30 degrees. So, that's equivalent to minus 4 yan, plus 0.866 F. That is equal to the y component of the resultant force, Ry. Okay? So, express natin so that we can apply calculus differential calculus, no? We should express R as a function of F. Express natin yung R as a function of F. And after which since we are solving for the minimum magnitude of R, no, equate natin yan sa 0. No, diba kapag in-apply natin ang maxima minima, we equate yung sa 0. Okay, after natin mag-derivative, equate natin siya sa 0 para makuha natin yung maximum or minimum values natin. Okay, so how do we express now R in terms of F? So since R natin is R squared from Pythagorean theorem, Rx squared plus Ry squared. Ayan. So alam na natin yung Rx and Ry in terms of F, so we can simply express R in terms of F. Ayan. So i-substitute lang natin. Rx is 5 minus 0.5 F squared plus Ry natin is minus 4 plus 0.866 F squared. Ayan. So, ayan na. Ayan na. So, next is to find the derivative of R with respect to F and equate it to 0. No? So, next, find the derivative of R with respect to F and equate it to 0 so that we can solve for the value of F, for which R would be minimum. Ayan. So, both sides of the equation. So, that would be 2R is equal to, so, chain rule lang tayo. Chain rule. So, 2 5 minus 0.4 F. 0.4? But 0.4 yung nilagay ko doon. That should be 0.5. I'm sorry. Please correct that. Medyo kwan na yung paningin ko. Alright. So, 5 minus 0.5 of F. Ito yun. Yung Rx natin. Times we take the derivative of yung ito sa loob. So magiging zero derivative niyan, this would be 0.5. So negative 0.5. Ayan. Plus igan ulit natin chain rule 2 minus 4 plus 0.866 F times derivative of ito sa loob as derivative ng constant ay 0. So we're left with 0.866. Ayan. Okay. Equate natin ito sa 0. So 0 dr over df is 0. So we simplify the equation. So we're left with minus 5 plus 0.5 F plus 1.5 F minus 6.866 928. Okay, from this we can now solve for F. So F is equal to 5.964 kilonewtons. So that's F. Okay, but that's not what we are. Oh pala, kasama pala siya sa hinahanap natin. So this is one of the answers then. So that is F, so that R is minimum. Now, next is solve for R. The result ay substitute lang yung value ng F. So, where do we substitute? Okay, dito sa ating equation. Okay? So R squared is equal to, i-substitute lang yung value ng ng F. Okay, so R squared times ito. Okay, we're going to use this equation. So 5 minus 0.5 times, that should be bracket para, yan, times 5.964 squared plus bracket ulit, yan, minus 4 plus 0.866 times F, which is 5.964 squared. So this we can solve for R. The value of R is, the minimum value of R is 2.33 kilonewtons. Okay? So that would be the solution for this particular problem. Ayan. Okay? Alright, so we'll have other examples, perhaps forces naman, concurrent forces in 3 dimensions naman tayo. Okay? So, separate video na lang yung discussion natin sa concurrent forces, solving for the resultant of concurrent forces in 3 dimensions.